So the aim of work package 3 was to evaluate the cytotoxicity and immunological responses, and also to look at the transport of the nanocarrier and the peptide cargo, and also look at the mechanism of action of those nanocarriers. So it was divided into sub-work packages, and I will start with the first one, the evaluation of the cellular toxicity. A general screening of all the prototype toxicity was performed. The reference center was ECAM Research, and they've performed most of those cytotoxicity studies. And you can see that they've used a range of 4 major cytotoxicity tests. One was to look at cell viability, the MTS. One was to look at the ATP content of the cells, to look at the metabolic activity. One was neutral red dye staining of viable cells, and also lactate dehydrogenase release to look at membrane disruption. So those tests were adapted from former EU projects, and one of the major information that we all had to do interference testing before being able to use one of those tests. And the 4 tests are on the Transgene website and were written as SOP. So to make a long story short, they have tested the 13 prototype families, and you can see that the range of the IC50 after 24 hours is ranging between more than 8 milligrams per mil to less than 0.1 or 0.2 milligram per mil. So there is a wide range of IC50. Well, there is, of course, an influence of the prototype by itself, but also an influence of the component of the prototype. For example, the surfactant might have an influence. It seems that those cytotoxic tests are required, or at least they are useful for further in vitro and vivo and ex vivo studies, but it's a very simplified model. So with these CACO2 studies, you cannot look at the influence of mucus, which could prevent some cytotoxicity, because the CACO2 cells do not secrete mucus. You don't look at the interference of gastrointestinal content, for example, proteins, enzymes, which degrade the nanocarrier. So it's really a rough estimation of the broad cytotoxicity of the nanocarriers. So the next step, and we were the reference center, but we had some collaboration with CEA, UC London for some data, was to look at model cell line and to see if and how the nanocarrier and the peptides interact with the intestinal layer, and also to look at the transport of the peptide and the nanocarrier across this intestinal layer, and look at the influence of the mucus and M cells and mechanism of transport. So you had a very schematic representation of the intestinal barrier. You see that the outer layer is an epithelial monolayer, which contain many enterocytes, but you have also mucus-secreting cells, the globate cells. You have M cells, which can transcytose nanoparticles. So to start, you can use a very simplified model with a monolayer of enterocyte, which is largely used in the pharmaceutical industry, which is CACO2. You can add lymphocytes to those CACO2 cells, and then you have some M cells in the monolayer, and you can look at the influence of M cells. You can add HT29 cells which secrete mucus, and then in this simplified model, you can look at the influence of mucus, and for other projects, you can even ask cytokine. So I don't have much time to go into some details, but I've chosen to give you, for one prototype, something that can be achieved with a monolayer. So here you have two picture of CACO2 and then a co-culture of the CACO2 and HT29, and you see in blue is the mucus that when you do a co-culture of HT29 and CACU2, you can compare the transport. And for this prototype, there was no influence of the mucus. And then if you do the same type of experiment with Ragicel and making it more like a follicle-associated epithelium with M cells, for this prototype, there was a higher transport of the prototype when you were doing co-culture with M cells. You can also use intestinal cells monolayers to look at confocal microscopy to look whether the cells are internalized or remain at the surface. You can quantify this interaction, and you can also look at some mechanism of endocytosis. So the lessons learned from these in vitro CACO studies were that we can study the transport of the carrier and the peptide and look at the interaction. So if I go more into detail with the transient data, what we found is that there is a very low or no peptide transport of the tested prototype, and there are a lot of challenges because there is, if you want to look at the peptide transport, you need to have a very low LOQ, you need to have a stable labeling of the nanocarrier. We found out that it's difficult to compare the different prototypes, and it's also difficult to extrapolate to ex vivo data. So the last model, it's a little more complicated, is to do the same type of investigation about the peptide transport and interaction, is to use human intestinal small intestine that you can get when patients undergo gastric bypass surgery that we discussed this morning. You can isolate the serosa, put the serosa in a sink chamber where you have oxygen supply, you can monitor the electrical resistance, you have a donor compartment with particles, and you can look at the transport of those particles, and you can also look at interactions. So basically with this human intestinal tissue, you can look at interaction, mucus binding, permeability, tissue interaction. For example, here you have the tissue in blue and the nanoparticle in red. You can measure the transport of the fluorescent carrier and the peptide, and you can look at the tissue response to the carrier. And the conclusion of the testing of about 8 to 10 prototypes, that some prototypes did not permeabilize. Some prototypes, you had the low permeability of the carrier and the cargo. Some prototypes, you had the high permeability of the cargo. And some prototypes were cytotoxic to the intestine. So the major conclusion is that was expected, that you have an influence of the prototype on the transport and interaction, depending, as discussed, whether it's attached or can penetrate into the mucus, whether it's internalized. And also one of the major conclusions is that the intestinal tissue barrier ex vivo is really an excellent model to study the interaction of the prototype with the carrier. Thank you.